Welcome to the Holding Priority Podcast, the Magic the Gathering CEDH podcast. I'm Cardboard Cryptid.
I'm the Gaming Ghost.
On today's episode, we'll discuss winning in CEDH.
What's the window? How do you win? What do you look for before you cast it?
Also, just the overall goal of what you should be trying to do in CED.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for some people, might not be.
You know, also what politics, I would never condone lying, but, you know, what politics help getting to your window.
Yeah. Just overall, once you've gotten the mulligans, once you've kind of worked on your general politics, like when do you decide this is my window? I'm going to take it. I'm going to try to close it. Before we get into it, though, let's go into the shuffle up. Let's go in to the shuffle up. It worked before. I think it's just like 50% of the time every time. So Lorwyn just came out. Hopefully you guys are kind of using those cards and you saw our podcast and you're just like, I did not think of this card. I will say that we did miss a single card. I wouldn't really say like miss, but I'll go over it real quick. I won't put it up on the screen, but there is a Magda card in the set, which is pretty cool. It's called Furdok Core. It's a 3 colorless kindred artifact shapeshifter. It is an artifact with changeling. This card is every creature type. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. 4 generic. This artifact becomes a 4/4 artifact creature until end of turn. So this is a command sphere that has changeling, but it's a dwarf. So whenever it taps, you tap for a red, and then you also get a treasure.
That's nasty.
And the whole thing about Magda is she wants dwarf artifacts. So they already run every artifact that has changeling already with Clock of Omens. But now they have a 3-drop command sphere.
That's all they
gives
need.
them a treasure. Yeah.
If you've ever played a Magda, they're very fast and seemingly they do nothing until it's everything.
Yeah.
So
and we have a pretty good Magda grinder in our circuit. I asked them about it. We also talked about in the Discord. It was one of those things that the day before pre-release in the Discord, I was like, hey, this came up. We missed it. So if you want to see stuff like that, we have a link tree, has our Discord. Good discussions come out of there pretty often, but we have a Magda tournament grinder that was just like, hey, this is a pretty good card. And I was like, well, is every Magda deck going to run it? And he was just like, maybe not, but I mean, it's a great Magda card. It's going in my deck. It's kind of Brewer's choice, but you know, do we want every artifact dwarf we can get? Absolutely. So
I believe they're usually in the top 16 of every tournament we play too.
Yeah. They just recently went to a 70-person tournament and they were 11th out of, but like top 16. And it was funny because I just messaged them and I sent the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Leonardo DiCaprio just like pointing at the screen. And they were like, yep, I'm going to the tournament that y'all are going on Saturday. And I was just like, oh no.
Yeah, that's funny.
We should have a tournament recap for you guys pretty soon. Still trying to figure out how to fit those set reviews and more skills honing podcasts in, but that is what we're doing. I'll go through everything pretty quickly. Just remember, we do have TCG Player. It's on our link tree. If you're buying any cards for your deck and you're listening to us, please use that link. Just clicking it, and even if you don't add anything to cart, lets them know that we're sending people there, which is good. And then, of course, if you buy something, even better for us. It's no additional cost to you. Really helps out. Takes like maybe a second or two. So thank you so much. And also, if you just copy our link from the link tree and bookmark it on your toolbar, you always use our link, which is pretty cool.
You're a full-fledged supporter all the time.
Yeah. I did that on my personal computer, And I did not know that I was not allowed to do that. So they sent me an email that I was using it too much, but confirmed, does work.
That's funny.
And then this will be on YouTube and podcasts. If you're on YouTube, please like, comment, subscribe, send it to your friends. If you're on a podcast platform, please rate us 5 stars, leave comments if you can, like on Spotify, and set us to auto download. Auto download tells the podcast platform you really like us, and it'll push us to more people. We've been doing really good lately, all thanks to you guys, all thanks to the Discord, all
fully.
thanks to everybody that's helping out. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really advertise the podcast much except for in person at tournaments. I'm not really a big social media user. I'm in the Discord all the time because I like talking to you guys, but not really posting on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram as much as I should. I'm gonna do a little bit better on that in 2026. If you're not a Discord user, look forward to that. But you guys have been really helping us out to grow, so appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
All right, let's get into winning in CEDH. So I just want to start this out that Ghost is a blue player. I, Cryptid, am not. Pretty much all of my decks usually don't have blue. Hashton did have blue, but Hashton was kind of a Esper big stompy creature deck, which was an exception to what I normally play. I like stompy creatures, but they're usually not in blue. So that was pretty cool. So we'll have 2 different takes on some of this. The way you win in a non-blue deck is a little bit different than winning with a blue deck. I think most decks in CDH will run blue, so we'll be leaning on Ghost quite a bit, but I will also, for you non-blue degenerates, have you in mind when I kind of talk. So let's start out with the most important thing: know when your deck wins. Me as a non-blue player, I'm gonna try to win turn 2, 3, usually 3, 4 at the latest. What about you?
There's a few factors. You need to know exactly when your deck can win. I would say if it's over turn 3, like if it's turn 3 or higher, then you'll need a little bit more to win. If you're turn 1 or 2, by all means, just gun it, because you might do it.
Yeah.
If you're turn 3, boards have been set up a little bit. There's a little more mana in play. People have drawn a few cards. So
I always hate losing to C1 turn 2 when everybody else just laid a land in a mana dork and passed, and it's like, oh, yep, you got it.
but there's decks that do that.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of it, something like Rogsai is the big bad.
And have I done that before in a tournament?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just all of a sudden, Command Tower, Mana Vault, had the land and the Simian Spirit Guide, and was just like, yeah, sorry guys.
I mean, if you play enough tournaments, it happens. And when it does, I'm just like, what a hand.
Yeah, yeah.
What? My God, dude.
I have gotten pretty good at not being like nervous, and like my hands don't shake. And it took a while because whenever I first started playing, just to go to a pre-release, I had to take emergency anxiety medication to go. Prescribed, if anybody's asking. But now I can go to tournaments, and of course I get nervous, but I don't really show it outright very often. But I will say, whenever I went 1 turn 2, heart rate way up. I'm pretty sure if I would have had my my watch on, it would have started buzzing and been like, you're being too active.
Mm-hmm.
Hand shaking. Whenever I was announcing my cards, there was like wavering in my voice. Like I was pretty embarrassed, but also I went on turn 2 and I just round 1 free wins. Yeah.
Well, when you're, it's okay to be giddy occasionally.
Yeah,
you just
yeah.
got to be sure that, and again, turn 1, 2, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of resistance. If somebody kept a Force of Will, cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, mind break trap if you got that high, which I mean, I'm assuming if you're winning on turn 2, it's not a 2-card combo, but I mean, it could be Thassa.
Yeah, Thassa. Well, then Thassa's usually 2-card spell, or like 2.
Yeah, like if you did a Mox Diamond turn 1,
true.
then Thassa, And then you're probably using Demont Consultation, and you're just lucky no one has a mental misstep. Yeah.
That's true. I mean, reading the board is also a thing.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody mulligans down a little, then they probably don't have a counter.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, know when your deck wins. If all you do is assemble, if your deck is made to assemble the win quickly and then just go and not really care. Because there are some like red-black decks that are like, I know I'm going to catch a counter, but I'm going to get so much value I can play through it anyway. Like Obnex and Rakdos, the Muscle Daddy, comes to mind, where it's like, I'm going to catch a counter, but I'm going to have so many cards exiled, playable. I'll have so much mana that, like, you will attempt to stop me, but you can throw one or two things in my way and I'm going to win. If that's your deck, just push, just try it. There are some decks like Rocco where it's like, yeah, I'm going to push pretty quickly. Hopefully I'm going to get there by turn 3 or 4. I have creature combos, so if you have a Force of Will, great. I'm probably not going to get in Mindbreak Trap range, and if I do, it's not really going to matter. Surprisingly, swords stops a lot of my wins, or Graveyard Interaction stops a lot of my wins. So, like, I can't just push a win, because I know if somebody has, like, a Swords or, you know, an Agatha's Soul Cauldron, the not Devoted Druid, the Deathrite Shaman that can take things out of your graveyard. I know if they have that creature and a mana up, they can probably stop me. You know, it's just knowing. I think that kind of gets into our second point of knowing the resiliency of the combo, knowing what can stop you on board and not on board. You know, if you're doing a combo like Underworld Breach, you're gonna get within Mindbreak Trap range. If someone hits your Brain Freeze with a Mindbreak Trap, does that completely stop you? Like, that's important to know. That's something that you kind of need to look at your graveyard and go like, okay, if someone tries to that will definitely be within Mindbreak Trap range if I cast this. If someone has it, does it stop me? It's also good knowing just like, okay, I can push a win. Everybody's tapped out. You know, the one card that stops me here is either a Silence or a Mindbreak Trap. Does anybody have a White Up? Nope, so it's not a Silence. Maybe somebody could have a Mindbreak Trap. That's a 1 in, 99 chance 3 times over. Maybe I'm going to risk that. Or like, Mindbreak Trap stops me. No blue, no blue, no blue. I'm at a table with 3 decks that have no blue, which, I mean, you're not going to be. But like,
it does happen occasionally.
Yeah, like, just kind of understanding, like, the resiliency of your combo. Like, if it's Thassa's Oracle, there's, so many things that stops that. That's the most known combo in the format. Yeah, it's only 2 cards, but if you consider Thassa combo is what it's really supposed to be, it's Thassa, Tainted Pact, or Demonic Consultation, and you're not trying it without a counter. So you're going to get in Mindbreak Trap range, If you're trying Thassa without a counter, that's very risky, and you should understand that risk. But if it's a calculated risk, take it, The answer to winning in CEDH is not just, oh, well, I assembled the combo and I have the mana. Let's go. Good luck.
I would say that's part of it. The problem is that as you play, you realize that it's a 4-player game. Yeah. So you have 3 opponents.
Yeah.
The initial win is good, but you need to know exactly where your flaws are too. And maybe your opponent's a little bit. I mean, if it's Underworld Breach, then you know that player is probably going to get to turn 3. I mean, or they got a really crazy hand and they're putting a lot of stuff in graveyard. But these are all signs that you can see.
Yeah.
For instance, if we're going into weird things that can stop combos, I believe there's an artifact, right, that stops ETBs. So that would stop Rocco's.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of it at the moment.
Toper Orb.
So if there's one of those there, it's like, well, I have 3 cards in my deck to get rid of it.
Yeah.
or I've got to hope that I can play on top of somebody else's win when they go to remove it.
I mean, there's also that flash creature that's you don't see it much, but it's a generic and a white from the clue set. I forgot Markov Manor.
Generic and a white.
It's a thrall that has flash and then
yes,
no ETBs basically, which is silly. Yeah.
To me, it has a big head, and that's the only way I remember.
Yeah. I mean, nobody runs it because even Tivit requires ETBs. So, like, you're more likely to see a cursed totem than a Toper Orb, but, like, Toper Orb does stop Thassa combo. Kind of back to just, I assembled my win and I have the mana. Should I push? We had a friend that made a deck that it was literally Sultai push turn 2 win. And it was I always forget the pirate's name. Or the pirate parrot.
Oh,
partner. It was Thrasios and then
gosh, I can't think of the name.
I was about
of
to
it.
be like Falcor. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, the flying dragon.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty much a walking ballista combo with Thrasios.
Francisco.
Francisco Thras.
Yeah, it was I mulligan for Thassa or I mulligan for walking ballista combo with the commander in the command zone. And it was one of those decks that's just like consistently pushes turn 2 win. And then consistently they stopped playing it because they were like, I just get the win in hand. I push so hard the entire table has to stop me. The entire table is going to stop me. Everybody's so exhausted that the next person that probably kept a win in their hand can just look at the table and go, well, I saw, 2 free counter spells, three free counter spells. I know you guys don't have anything. I know that the dude that tried doesn't have anything because if he had something, he would have won. I know that you guys probably aren't likely to have another free counter spell. There's no mana tapped. I'm just going to push. So it was kind of just push, give win to next person in seed order. So I would definitely say like it is not just assemble combo push. You will definitely find out pretty quickly that if you're the first to go and you just push regardless of board state, you're probably just giving hand and wins to the next person. And I want to be that next person in seed order. So,
exactly.
yeah.
I would say this is a big issue with players that are going into CEDH because usually you in casual nobody has any counters, and if they do, it's rare.
Yeah.
But when you have your win, it could have been turn 8, and in CEDH, it's you quickly realize that every player should be having a great deck.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, and there's no blue, it should win quickly, or with very little interaction that can happen. Or if it is with blue, that they probably run Thassa combo, so it can go fast, and it may have some counters. So
and Rocco surprisingly is a very resilient deck. There's only 2 cards that for sure stop me, like from hand, that are played often, and there's 1 card that might stop me, depending on when it's cast. And the 2 cards that counter Rocco are Force of Will and hard cast Mindbreak Trap, for the most part. And the thing that will stop me is a Silence in my upkeep. But if you sandbag the silence and even let me get to main phase, it becomes, okay, I cast Rocco for 4, silence, cool. I am not casting anything else. I probably have a land that's going to sack my creature. And from there, I get Vivian, and I make infinite caps through a 5-step combo under a silence. Does Ranger Captain stop me? No, because Ranger Captain only stops non-creature spells. In fact, I love when people bust their Ranger Captain on my turn
Yeah,
because now
stops
no one can
everything.
do anything.
I've seen your face light up.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh man.
uh, and even with that being a resilient combo, I have learned very quickly if I just build Rocco to come out as early as possible, everybody has something. You know, they'll just be like, well, I guess I gotta bust this Force of Will, or oh, hey, you know, I'm gonna throw a silence on you, and then I'm like, oh, okay, dang, you know, the sack outlet I have in hand, I actually have to cast. So, all right, thanks. Yeah.
Hmm.
You know, it's one of those things where if you are a threat when everybody has a full flush hand, you need to play through it. And if you can play through it, great. But if you're just constantly going to push and you're like, well, they can only stop me if they have a Force of Will or a silence. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, there's 3 other people. So it's a 2 in 98. Well, yeah, 2 in 98 chance for the most part, which is a 1 in 49 chance, but it's a 1 in 49 chance 3 times. So it's a 3 in 49 chance. So it's basically a 15% chance that
So,
they're going to have something.
so much math.
Yeah. I did that in my head.
I was like,
Yeah.
jeez.
It's a 15% chance that they can stop you. And sometimes, like, you know, math side, I'm just like, I'm not winning this game. I'm just going to push. And if they have the thing that stops me, cool. You know, like,
And we'll get into this part of it too, but there's also some educated guesses you can come to as well.
yeah. And this is like just like the basics of like, you haven't been paying attention to anything that's happened in the game so far. You know, you're not card counting the counters that have been used.
I do that a lot. I'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, so this is gone. Now there's only this and this and this. I will say, with as far as resilience goes, maybe lean more to the cards that win, but they're not the card exactly. So, for instance, if I have Kennen on the field, let's say I have Thrasios in hand, you know, it's a god hand, but I have to cast Basalt. The chances of me having to switch to a whole nother win line is really high if that gets exiled.
Yeah.
So maybe instead of Basalt, I try to do Whir of Invention, or lean more to a Whir of Invention line, or a Resculpt, or a Tezzeret, Transmute, anything that brings it straight to field. So maybe, not that I just lie to somebody, but maybe they don't notice the board state, which is very rare for me now. But I'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to Transmute is always Basalt, but Tezzeret could be a Phyrexian Metamorph or something like that. And I cast it, and they're like, well, what is he going to get? And it's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to resolve it.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah.
I would like it to resolve.
Yeah. I've been surprised, and this happened once in a tournament where somebody cast Tainted Pact before their turn. And I was just like, oh, they're looking for Thassa. You know, like, I don't have a counter, but I mean, I don't necessarily feel like this is an attempt, which, like, you know, I'm not going to say the table. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I'm going to have to pass on it. And they Tainted Pact to the last 2 cards in their deck. And, oh, no, this one was actually way cooler. They mulliganed away. So they had a land and a Mox Diamond. And they went down to 6. And it wasn't a sack land. So they went down to 6. They put Thassa's Oracle on the bottom whenever they bottomed for their 6.
Yeah,
and then
cool.
they Tainted Pact, knowing that Thassa was on the very bottom. And then had Thassa and 2 mana up. That was blue. And then cast Thassa and won on turn 2. And I was just like, Oh, okay. And then someone was like, I actually did have or not a force negation. They were like, I actually did have a force negation, but I didn't think you were doing Thassa combo in reverse.
Yeah.
I've also seen like some people very same similar concept where somebody played those like you can only cast one spell per turn, and they just reverse Thassa on somebody's end step, which was their one spell that on that person's turn. Went down to two, drew, already had Thassa in hand, played it, and they were like, "Cool, that's my one spell a turn. I win." I did a two card combo on two different turns.
That's funny.
Yeah. That I actually forgot what I was talking about, but I mean that was so cool.
Also, there's, as far as resilience of your combo, knowing what exactly gets you, maybe it's value, and then later it's a win. So very rarely do you get a basalt for value. However, maybe I get an enduring vitality, and then I try to win from there with pushing my mana up a little bit to the next turn. But there's multiple things that you should look at as you're building your win lines with, like, does it get hit by force? Does it get hit by force of negation? Anything that's a non-creature, it's usually hit by everything.
Yeah.
And then if it is a creature line, which is what we see more often now, it cuts out, half of the counters, as long as there's no non-creature spells in the combo.
Yeah, there's also times so like I'm looking for very specific counters, and every time I see a Force of Will played that's not on me, or even when it's on me, I'm just like, oh well, my win rate just went up.
Yeah.
Like there are times where this happened yesterday where I had a guy's cradle and I had 3 1-cost dorks out. So I tapped my guy's cradle, which is 1 land, and I played a food chain. And everybody was just like, man, I don't have anything. And then the last person in rotation was just like, have a Force of Will. Didn't really want to use a Force of Will on a food chain, but I mean, they're going to win if it hits because they'll just go and get Squee, and my Force of Will is not going to do anything when you can infinitely cast Squee. So they'll pop a Force of Will on my food chain, and then I'm just like, wow, I popped a Force of Will just by tapping a guy's cradle. Like that's value. And then I'll sit there and I'm just like, oh well, now can I just win normally? Like, is it possible? Do I have 7 mana outside of the guy's cradle? And like, if no, this turn, how can I ensure that my next turn will? Or like sometimes it's like, okay, well, they burned my guy's cradle. I will have 7 mana for sure, and I can actually push again on my next turn. Food Chain was just an easy win. What do I have in hand? I have a Dranith and I have a Collector Oof. Okay, I'm getting another turn. Let me drop these, and now that I've seen 1 Force of Will gone, the other 2 players have to have a Force of Will, and one of them is one of them is non-blue. So, what are the chances the second blue player has a Force of Will? Very low. I'm gonna try to get my next turn, and I'm gonna push. If it gets there. Mm-hmm. Knowing the things that have been burned is really important. Like, yeah, we do have a lot of free counter spells like Force of Will, Force Negation, Pact, Mindbreak Trap. But when you've already known that like a lot of those cards have been used, especially First Guardianship, and you're like, okay, what free counters are out there? How many cards does everybody have in hand? What mana is tapped? Like, you can start to make those smart decisions where you're like, if they have the 1 card that stops me, they have the 1 card that stops me. Like, let's go. Yeah.
But that's still like a very calculated.
Yeah.
movement. Seemingly not as you're in the game.
Yeah.
However, you know, we kind of like to break down the mindset.
Yeah.
I think verifying what's out as well and what can be used to stop you.
Yeah.
Like I know we mentioned Deathrite Shaman,
Yeah.
or you know maybe somebody's holding up a Agatha's, which can disrupt a lot of graveyard combos.
Yeah, if you push and get stopped by something that's on board, that's a lesson that you'll learn hopefully only once, and it feels really bad. And it happens to all of us.
There's also like a Cephalid Coliseum. Like I'll
Yeah.
be like, is there any lands that can make me draw?
Yeah. We had something yesterday where Rogsai cast a Beseech the Mirror and then Flare of Duplication, the Beseech the Mirror. And they bargained it with Rograth. And I had a Dranith out, and I was like, I'm not going to say anything. And they went and got the card, and then they tried to put it on the field. And I was just like, no, you have to put it in your hand. They were like, no, I bargained it. And I was like, I know you bargained it, but it specifically casts from exile, which you cannot do because there's a Dranith. So it's to your hand. And then they were like, oh my God. So I just put Thassa combo straight to hand. And I was just like, yeah, you did it. And then they were like, well, I do have a snap that I can use before the Thassa hits exile. And I was like, no. Like, you have fully resolved it. There is no break in the middle of a resolution. Thassa's to hand. If you want to cast Tainted Pact for free, you can use your snap.
Yeah.
But right now, you are trying to make an illegal play, and it's been done. So you got to put that to hand. They're like, oh man, it's like, yeah, I could have said something, wasn't going to. Like we're in a big boy tournament. So the other thing that I would say is like keep an eye out for things that should be countered but weren't. And I know that you in a top 4 recently kind of had this happen where you cast a culling ritual and everybody passed on culling ritual. And you had an Adnaz in hand, and you were like, okay, well, culling ritual, reset Kinnan's board, reset Kenrith's board. Other person was kind of out of it. I've got 7 black mana now, Adnaz, and then you were like, clearly my Adnaz is going to go through because if the culling if somebody was going to stop something, it would have been culling ritual. And then Kinnan was just like, oh, this is awkward. I do have a counter spell.
Yeah.
But there have definitely been times where like I've seen like an Adnaz resolve, or like just something you clearly counter, like Dargo Timna resolved a Relic of Legends, and it'll get to my turn, and I'll just kind of look at the table and be like, well, now I know we don't have any counters because that resolved, so I'm gonna push.
And it could be more apparent too. I would say Relic of Legends to me could be value, but something that's heavy value like a Smothering Tithe. If I see a Smothering Tithe resolve, I'm like,
there are no counters.
Yeah, nobody has anything.
Yeah.
Or if, let's say,
or I'm only worried about the person that casts Smothering Tithe having a counter.
Yeah, which is one out of 3.
Yeah.
That's pretty good chances. I would also say look at your seeding, because there's been times where I'm in a pod and there's only 2 blue players and the other 2 are little cardboard goblins trying to win.
Yeah.
And how seeding order will always be before the other blue player. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pass on stuff. Otherwise, they're going to win just in counter wars.
Yeah, I mean, kind of going to that same subject is I've seen Rogsai push. Like I've seen Rogsai cast a Underworld Breach, and then I'd be like, I pass on it, and the other person's like, I pass on it, and then the person that's last in priority was just like, all I got is a silence, so it'll have to do. Yeah, and then they'll cast the silence, and the Rogsai will just be like, oh dang, and then all of a sudden, like, they pass to my turn, and I'm like, well, I know nobody has a counter, and I know the silence was burned, so it's time for me to go, you know? Like,
I would say in those instances, now we've had politics. We have a whole video on it,
yeah,
but that is a prime example of I think we should tie here.
yeah,
So just knowing with good educated guessing that there is no counters with an educated guess, because you don't really know. And I'm one of those people that will hold like a mental misstep and be like, I don't really care about a one shot, 2-3 mana here. It
yeah,
looks
yeah,
like value. And then somebody will put something, it's like, well, it's not necessarily a win, but it will be a win.
yeah,
And I'm like, I have a mental misstep. And
yeah,
they're like, there was like 4 other things. You
yeah.
let a remora resolve. It's like,
I'm
yeah,
not playing into the Remore. Yeah. It's like I'm forced to now. Now, I was in a tournament, and someone swung a Ragavan, and the person had tutored to top and kind of didn't realize that there was a Ragavan out, or it was dashed. So the person that tutored to top tried to swords it. And then the person that was swinging with Ragavan used a mental misstep. And the person that used the swords was like, I don't have any counter spells. Looked at the third person and was like, I tutored this card to cut top. It's like a really good card for them. And that person went, oh, I can't pitch in. I'm sorry. And the person got the card, but they weren't really able to do much with it. Like, it was a value, but it was like they had add-ons in a deck that was like full of giant stuff. And of course, they cast it, but they didn't get anywhere. And at that point, I was like, well, I know no one has anything. And I know no one has anything because we fought over a Ragavan trigger. So
Yeah.
I was like, I've got Thassa combo. I have no counter to back it up. I was not going to play this, but now that I know the board state and it just really seems like nobody has counters, I'm pretty confident playing Thassa. Really, the thing I'm worried about the most is a mental misstep, but this is Tainted Pact, so it has to eat a full counter. Thassa Tainted Pact, and everybody was like, "Yep, I don't have anything," and I was just like, "Oh, this does not feel like a good win, but it is a win." Like,
Well, too bad.
yeah, it's like we fought over a Ragavan swing, and because of that, now I know that I'm free and clear.
Yeah, just to kind of give a list of a few things that I kind of take note if they resolve. Heuristic study.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not so bad now, but it has been.
yeah,
For whatever reason, a food chain, if it doesn't win, you see people that'll cast a food chain like turn 1, turn 2, just to get it on the field. I've been that person with my Terra deck.
yeah.
And be like, well, if I get to turn 3,
There's been times where I've cast a food chain turn 1, and I was just like, if it gets to my turn, I can just make such serious value that I run away with the game on turn 2, or I can push a win because I have a Lion's Eye Diamond, or something like Lion's Eye Diamond Squee. I definitely have. That was mostly in Atali. I will say in Rocco, because there's just so much stuff to do, I'll usually just be like, well, I have a food chain in hand and I have a turn 1 Cabbage Man. Turn 1 Cabbage Man, so much better. So much more resilient, so much better.
I would say the two black big ones would probably be Adnaz or Necropotence. And shame on you if you don't win with an Adnaz.
Yeah.
However,
Shame on your luck too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
I've said it multiple times that I'm not a big fan of Necropotence.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It puts in work. However, it's something that's not necessarily.
And that's another sign too, is like, if you see those big value cards and all someone can do is cast a silence on top of it, but let it resolve, like, there are times where you're just like, I'd rather just do a silence than counter it. Like, I'll silence and they'll get a handful of counters and I'm not poised to win. So like, I'll let them get all those counters to stop everybody else, and maybe we'll get to the late game where I thrive in. But then you could see the Adnaz resolved and they're probably not going to get a super risky one. And then it'll be like, oh, you didn't get anything. Oh, okay.
Take note of their hand for
Yeah.
sure. Or if it's necropotence, take note of what cards they discard.
Yeah.
They should hold up interaction, but maybe they don't.
Yeah.
What's another one? There, we said culling ritual or culling the weak.
Culling Ritual, the one that it's black green. Culling the Weak is the one that gives the Dark Ritual mana.
Yeah. So,
I mean, Diabolic Intent is a pretty clear one. I'd say sometimes crop rotation, like if they put their pants way down, and crop rotation, you kind of know that there's a lack of counters. There are some times where I see somebody crop rotation and I have a mental misstep and I'm just like, I could mental misstep them and just take them completely out of the game. Or there's some times where it's like, okay, they crop rotationed. I do have a Fierce Guardianship, but like I also have a Boseiju, so I'd kind of rather them have the Guy's Cradle so I can just blow it up when it becomes relevant for green. So
I would argue some of your tutors to fields. So if somebody resolves a finale or
a big finale,
Nature's Rhythm,
yeah,
if somebody Nature's Rhythm and gets a Seedborn Muse to field,
yeah, an Eldritch Evolution on a 3-cost, like
yeah, then chances are if they didn't win, you might have a chance.
Yeah, and then also no one has an op agent too.
Like, very very true.
You can rule out several things.
Or if there's a fight, right, and the fight ends with a silence.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah. I will definitely say a few of my wins in tournaments have been people fighting over not wins. And then all of a sudden it gets to my turn and I'm just like, oh, I have a win. Like, I'm really glad we burnt all that. Like, yeah.
It's like, I'm glad y'all got me to here.
Yeah. I'll 100% say that in those cases, even if I have a counter, I'll sandbag because I'm like, I want this to protect my win. Like, clearly I'm not going to lose here, but I'm calculating that there's going to be enough opportunity for me to sandbag that if I absolutely have to, I can throw in the last counter. And then if I know it's the last counter, I'm still going to push on my turn. Yeah.
Which kind of goes to another point that I would say is like, there's times where you're about to just shove the win anyway. And if it goes, it goes. Let's say silence was the first thing that was put on the player before use turn. So you don't really know if there's a counter, or let's say it's just a counter, a regular counter, because the silence is kind of more personal. I'm going to use it for me. But if it's like a force of will and it stops the person from winning, but they could cast it again the next turn.
Yeah.
Then you know that this is the last turn rotation you have.
Or just it's my turn and I'm looking at the next person.
Oh, yeah,
and they have a Grand Abolisher that has not been removed and I can't remove it.
Very true.
Yeah, so I'm just like
when you're looking at death.
Yeah, I was like, well, I know this is my last opportunity, so I'm gonna take it. I always call those desperation attempts because in video games, especially like Metroidvania, there are those desperation gambits that the bosses do where like you've killed them and then they get stuck at one life and then all of a sudden they have like a super like kamikaze attack where they just blow up half the screen and try to take you with them. I know that like the like more recent Castlevanias have had those in, but I always think about that where I'm like, well, I'm just gonna try, and maybe in me trying, the person will have to like blow so many counters that they can't win anymore, and they're not confident to win, or I'm not gonna put myself out of the game. But I mean, if I only have, if I know for sure this is my last turn, I'm gonna try to push, and if the person that's about to win that we're passing into, they don't have the counters and the other person has counters, that's kind of a win-win for me, because it's like, well, I pushed and I got through 5 points. Or I pushed and I didn't get it through, but the person controlling the counter was not going to win anyway. And they were like, hey, I can stop you right here. I'll show it to the table. You put a win on the stack. We know this guy is just going to pass into a win that we can't stop. The option here is to tie. And there are some times where the person that's about to win is just like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take the tie. And it's like, I am not bluffing. I will just let them win. Like,
And I would say that's like a high level of play thinking, to be like, "Oh, we could lose here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm cool with that.
yeah.
I'm not going to get the points anyway.
Yeah. Well, you get one.
Well,
There are times that I will say that, like, in later rounds especially, I've been like, I need 5 points. And they'll be like, well, I can put a tie on the stack, and I'm just like, a tie and a loss is absolutely no different for me at this point in the game. I also don't think anybody here really benefits from a tie. Somebody needs to win. So I'm just gonna let you guys know. Yes, please, like, propose those ties, but I don't really see a world where I accept a tie, because a tie and a loss is the same for me.
yeah.
It's like, if you can stop them, stop them. If you don't want to and you just want them to get 5 points over me, at least somebody from this table goes to the finals.
Yeah.
And usually in those cases, everybody's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's like, well, he has a grand abolisher, but I don't know for sure that he's going to win. So, like, maybe I do just counter it. And I'm just like, I'm not. It's like, can I see your hand? It's like, no. Like, this is going to be a pure gamble. Like, you do it or you do it.
Yeah. I've mentioned passing on priority to try to get more counters out of the next person's hand. That's especially if the person winning is right in front of me, and then my turn's next. I'll be
Yeah.
like, I ain't got nothing
Yeah.
that I want to use here. Like,
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it with you when we play, because I'll drop a food chain and you'll pass on it, and then the next person will pass on it, and then the other person will pass on it, and then you'll know that I'm just going to Rocco for 3, and I can only do Rocco for 3. Like, I have exactly 6 mana. So I'll Rocco for 3, and then you'll be like, okay, well, I have a Boseiju. You can go get Squee, but your food chain's gone. Or, like, I have a Force of Will. I didn't want to use it, but if no one else has a counter, I've seen that no one else has a counter, I'm going to Force of Will your Rocco. So, like, yes, food chain resolved, but, now you just don't have Rocco, so you can't go get Squee. Like, luckily you just didn't have it in hand, and I was willing to just gamble that you didn't have it in hand.
I feel like when I do that, it's like, okay, I see that, Cryptid's putting out feelers. I'm going to put out some feelers. Yeah. Let's see what's really going on here.
I will also say that there has been times where, like, alternatively, I've Roccoed for 3 and you had a Boseiju and you got rid of my food chain, and I was like, so I can go get a land, and it comes in untapped, right? And you're like, yeah. So I'd put out the land, and then my Rocco for 3, instead of go getting Squee, I'll just get Eternal Witness.
Yeah.
And then I'll put Eternal Witness out, and I'll just be like, all right, I'll get food chain back to hand. I'll cast food chain again. I've got 8 mana worth of creatures on the field. How much mana do I need for Squee? 2 commander attacks, 3 for Rocco, 3 for Squee. By God, I have it. And then you're like,
it's bad, but in the same instance, I realized when that happened that nobody had anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm big on wording, so I'll be like, I don't have a counter.
Yeah.
Which is true. And I feel good sleeping at night knowing that. And then it's like, all right, well, I'll Boseiju it.
I mean, one of my favorite, and I will say it was my hardest question, and I've brought this up before, but, like, my hardest question to answer in politics when I used to play Blue is, do you have anything for this? Because everybody will just be like, do you have anything for this? Knowing full well that they have counters in hand. And I have gotten to the point where my answer is not like no, because like no is a lie, like, but I'll just be like, you should do what you can. Like, I don't want to help here, or like something like that, which I might not straight up be like, I don't want to help here. I'll just be like, you should do what you can. Like,
I would say it also gets you have to be ready to lose.
yeah,
Because and you make those educated guesses. If it's something like Blue Farm or somebody has been drawing and they have 8 to 10 cards in hand, like first off, shame on the table a little bit. However, you definitely don't want to just give it to the person because of not necessarily poor play, but desperation playing. So that you're like, okay, well, I've seen you before, not to say that this is a bad move, but you've calculated even with the Ristic study, I'm going to cast 2 things. And in those 2 things, if you draw it, I'm willing to risk that.
yeah.
And oh no, the first thing that comes down is a Grand Abolisher,
Yeah.
and now you can draw every card you want ever.
I've seen people just be like, oh well, Rocco's gonna win. I'm gonna drop a Ristic study, and then I'm like, both rectors are 4 and white and die the same. So like, I can just not go get Food Chain. I like Food Chain because it's the flashiest. It's sometimes the most resilient, but I can also just Rocco for 4, and then if somebody counters me whenever Rocco resolves, and I have a land that can sack, I just win anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not casting. But I've seen people go like, all right, we've gotten rid of Vivian. He can only Food Chain. I'm going to cast Ristic. And then I'm like, go for it. Like, I'm like, if you can get something to stop me in the next like 3 cards, cool. If not, I'm going to go put a Grand Abolisher out. And pretty much all you have at that point is Odawara. If you're in green, maybe Boseiju, and you can send my Squee to hand once I get, 4 or 5 casks with Squee. Like I don't care. You can send my Grand Abolisher to hand because I definitely am going to make sure I have at least 3 white mana when I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So you can send it back to hand, and it's like, cool, priority back to me. I'll recast it.
Yeah, and then you can sack it again for 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's more resilient than some people think. I will say if like I have a pure desperation attempt, I will communicate to the board where it's like, hey, this is the last turn I'm gonna have. We know that if I pass, I'm gonna lose. You're gonna lose. Can you guys do anything at all? Because I can be responsible and we can all work together and stop it. But if it's just on me, I'm just going to try to win, and I'm going to pull counters out of their hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to try to win. I highly suggest that you make the person that's about to win stop me and deal with it, because they probably have Thassa combo and they need to Forbidden Tutor to stop me. Like we need to burn that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they have a Force of Will, but they only blue card is Thassa, and they're going to have to stop their win. Like they'll have a Grand Abolisher, but no Thassa. So like, good luck, And I'll just be like, if you can stop me, but it won't put you in a winning position, I would suggest you just show the counter and propose a tie. But, otherwise, make this dude that's about to win deal with it. And if he can't deal with it and y'all can't deal with it, even better. 5 points for me, which is said quietly in my head. But
yeah. I would also say too that sometimes forcing the counters, maybe it doesn't stop the win, but there's only so much mana.
Yeah.
So let's say you fight in the upkeep for whatever reason to try to silence the player, and it's like, well, I know that this is a creature win.
Yeah.
I can try to counter the counter for the silence, and maybe we just burn some, which I don't like to say that. However, you do it and then they tap more mana and you're noticing, you're calculating, you're like,
Yeah.
okay, well,
There's definitely times where I've just been like, okay, they used a Fierce Guardianship. Oh, well, now they just used a Swan Song. Like, they're running low on counters, and they had to use a blue for that. And how many blues up? They have one blue up, and they haven't laid a land this turn. Like, I don't think they can win if we do one more. You know,
yeah,
like,
that's like pushing the weight in your favor,
yeah,
and then they get to where they're like, all right, I'm gonna try to win, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna tap for 2 blue. It's like, how?
yeah. And I've also seen people, and I am like a huge podcast appropriate term wiener when it when it comes to this, but when that stuff happens and then people try to retap their mana after everything has been done, I'm just like, nope, judge, like you can't retap. And they're like, oh, well, I meant to like leave this up. I used a black instead of using the scrub land. I meant to do the or instead of the bad land, I meant to use the scrub land because I want to I want to tap the red and use Rite of Front Flame. It's like, yeah, but it's tapped. You can't change your board state after everything resolved. You know, like
It's like, well, there's no new information. It's like, well, there's a lot of new information because now, we know what mana's there.
well, also you cast that spell and it resolved.
That's true.
That's your new information.
That's new mana is there. But I've seen people that maybe they don't realize it or they want to not realize it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, once you pass priority and the first person passes to the next person,
Yeah.
it's pretty much done.
Yeah. Retapping mana is something I don't even let people do in practice games. Like casual games, I don't really care too much if people retap mana because we're there for fun. But like if you are saying that you're a bracket 4 to 5 deck, even bracket 4, you are stuck with the choices you've made unless you immediately take them back. If you've tapped your mana, you cannot retap. And like I will say once every tournament, I have to call somebody out where they're like, oh, and then they just redo it. And I'm like, no. Like, you can't just change the mana that you tap now that it resolved. You know, like,
I think that our group that we play with quite often initially was pretty upset with some of the rule forcing the rules.
yeah.
However,
I'm a rules lawyer where like if it's the first time, I'll usually tell people, unless it's like something egregious like retapping mana, but if it's the first time, I'd be like, in a tournament, I'd call a judge over, but like you can go ahead because we're just playing for fun, but like just know in a tournament that wouldn't fly. And like I also just won't let you do it again.
and it's but I think that our group as a whole has gotten to where they'll do something and they'll be like, I messed up.
Yeah.
I messed up.
Well, I mean, I've even seen people Tainted Pact not necessarily realize that they went past Thassa, pull the next card over, and I'm just like, you can't. And then they're just like, what? And it's like, you saw Thassa, you skipped it, you saw the next card, like you resolved it.
Yeah,
And I will say that like if the only time that works is if someone was like, I'm going to Tainted Pact, I'm going to go get Thassa. And if they specifically say they're going to go get Thassa, a judge will let them take that one card back because they specifically noted what they were doing. A good judge.
Yeah.
Not that everyone should. I think personally in tournaments, you don't name a card with Tainted Pact. So if you're not careful, you're just not careful. But
I mean, Tainted Pact and Consultation are kind of close.
yeah.
Clearly Tainted Pact is better. However, if you name Consultation with I'm sorry, if you named,
You have to name with Consultation.
yeah, you name with Consultation, so you couldn't have seen the next card.
Yeah.
I think in something like that, you'd get a warning and shuffle is usually how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, what the judges have been, judging has been kind of crazy in CD. It needs to be, but I've had judges just say, what do you guys want to do? And I'm just like, they didn't name Thassa, so they have to keep that card or keep going. And they'll be like, oh, okay, that is what I was going to rule. Or if they specifically name Thassa and they're like, well, I'm going to let them take Thassa, that next card. Do you guys want them to keep it on top? Do you guys want them to shuffle? And I'm just like, no, that card's not good for them. Like, they need to at least keep that card on top. You know?
Yeah.
Or also, they revealed the card, so it has to be exiled. Like, I think that's fair. And sometimes the judge will like push up back on that. But like, usually it's the judge comes over and they're like, the person that made the mistake, it was such an easy mistake to make. I don't want to push them out of a win. But I also want the resolution to be what's best for the table in this situation. Now, alternatively, I've also seen somebody tainted pact and be like, I'm a tainted pact, I'm going to flip my deck over. And then they grab their entire deck, flip their deck over, and then they're like back on Thassa combo. And then someone's like, cool, I have a Cephalid Coliseum, you lose.
Yeah.
And then they've been like, well, technically I didn't go through it. So, and then they try to put their deck back. And then I was just like, nah, I'm going to call a judge. And the judge was just like, so you proposed a loop, you flipped it over. Clearly everybody accepted it if no one said, wait. So you proposed a loop, the table accepted it. And then once you knew that there was a Cephalid Coliseum and you could lose, you want to backtrack on that. I'm not going to let you do it. And then they're like, well, no new information was given because like that Cephalid Coliseum was always out. So that's not new information. I just didn't know how it worked. I want to put my deck back. It's like, no, when you propose a loop and everybody accepts it, that's done. You know, like I've seen people try to use the no new information and it's like, no, that's not necessarily how that works.
On the flip side, I've kind of learned this from Cryptid, and it's this is my win. I'm gonna propose this.
Yeah.
If y'all don't accept it, I'll play it differently.
Yeah.
However, this is what I can do.
Yeah. And
they'd be like, well, no, I want you to play it out. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go for another line, and it's less interaction.
Yeah. And that's what like with Rocco specifically, I don't propose the exact cards anymore because I'll have people be like, oh, well, if that's what you're doing, you know, I let's all talk about it. Yeah. You know, now that I know like what your combo is, I actually can't stop you. Like I'll stifle the Rocco combo, like trigger when I wouldn't have before. And I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to get burnt like that again. So I'll just be like, okay, Rocco for 4.
Do y'all see it?
You know, I don't even tell them anymore. Like I win so quickly that I'll just be like, Rocco for 4. I'll get Academy Rector. I'll sack it. Trigger on the stack. Cool. I'll exile it. I'll get Food Chain. And then at that point, I'll do my squee, and then I'll propose infinite mana. And then when I have infinite mana, I'm just like, I can play this out. I have infinite creature mana. Like, clearly I'm going to win. Do you guys just accept the concede? And they're like, well, how do you win? And I was just like, it's either you guys accept it right now or I go through the 20-minute combo. You know?
Yeah, and I agree because like with Kennen, it's similar.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I have infinite colorless. I have a filter here.
Yeah.
I'll get a billion with Treasure Vault. Simple way, I go get Thrasios, win with Finale.
Yeah.
If y'all don't accept that, you know, I have another line. It's a lot harder to play.
Yeah.
It's instant speed. It takes a lot longer.
I've also had people not really realize that Kiki gives haste. So I'll assemble the entire Vivian combo, which takes a lot. You know, it's a lot of actions that I have to pass through. And then I'll go, cool, you know, here, I'll make a Feldalar Guardian, untap Kiki, make a Feldalar Guardian, untap Kiki. And then I'll go, you know, I can do this infinite times. I'll propose a billion cats. And then I've had somebody in a tournament just go, yeah, cool. And I'm like, all right, move to combat. Swing with a billion cats. And they're like, how are you swinging with him? And I was like, Kiki gives them haste. They're like, oh, I didn't know that Kiki gave him haste. I had a swords. I'm like, and they're like, let's move back. And I'm like, no,
No,
yeah.
it's so
It's like, you,
in
yeah, too
tournaments,
bad.
I would suggest you
Like,
be very aware of how many times priority has passed.
yeah,
Because initially, what priority does is, do you have anything for this specific action? Yes, no,
yeah,
no, okay. If you get to 2 or 3 rounds of priority, it's like, no, no, man. Like
yeah,
you've told me no that you had nothing 3 different,
yeah.
two different time, one different time.
I've had to do that with hash time because not everybody knows. I mean, most people don't know that Time Bones joins up is a win once it gets to the ETB. So I'll do Time Bones joins up and I'll get to the ETB. I'm like, cool, ETB on the stack. I'll discard. Everybody else will discard. And I'm like, we all put our discard face down because we all do it at the same time. So I'll put my discard face down. I'll reveal it and it's Sharoom. And they'll be like, oh, or I'll put my card down and then they'll realize that it's a discard and I have open mana. And I'm like, before I reveal the card, they're like, I actually want to counter that now. And I'm like, too bad, it resolved. So if you had the counter and you didn't use it, we're past that. So put your card down and I'll discard and I'll show Sharoom. And I'll be like, okay, cool. Sharoom trigger on the stack. And they're like, well, I have to demot consultation for a swords or, a noxious revival or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you got to do now.
Yeah.
We can't just go, oh, this is a win attempt. I actually could have countered it. So
It's like, well,
or no one else. It was the person that was right after me too. And they were like, well, if no one else is going to counter it, I would like to throw in a counter. It's like, you passed. This person passed. This person passed. It's my turn. It's happening now.
yeah. One could also argue, be aware of what people are talking about, because you can kind of X out certain things from people's hands, or what win line they might be trying to go for just by their conversation. But and also be aware of what you say, because if you're like, I only have one piece of interaction, it's like somebody at the table is like, oh, that's great, because I have a win line and a counter.
Yeah. Another thing, and this is related but not related, if it's your turn and you're about to win and the table is scrambling for a very long time plotting how to stop you, keep in mind there is a rule about that. It's MTRA 4.1. The active player may request the table to stop excessively influencing game actions to progress play. Failure to do so may result in a unsportsman or an unsporting conduct minor penalty. There have been times where like I'll Rocco for 4 and the table will just be like, oh my god, what do we do to stop it? Like blah 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 blah, what do you have? Show me your hand. Let's all conspire. And I'll let people go for a fair amount of time, like 2 minutes or so. And then I'll look at the clock and I'll go, this Rocco has been suspended on the stack for quite a while. No one has passed priority. We're not talking about priority passing. We're just having an in-depth conversation about how to stop me. I'll give you guys 3 more minutes. I feel like 5 minutes of nobody passing priority is fair. After that, I'm going to start asking for some game actions. And usually like people will be like, okay, that's fair. And, sit there. But there have been times before that rule was passed where I would Rocco for 5 and then people would just sit there and talk for 15 minutes. And I'm just like, okay, well, it feels like what's going to happen is somebody's just going to demot consultation for a silence and silence me. And because I let them conspire for 15 minutes, I'm not getting another turn. Like, but if they would have had to take a reasonable amount of time, because like it takes 5 minutes for everybody to look at their hand and go like, no, I can't do anything about it. And like one person to be like, well, if no one can do anything about it, I do have a demonic consultation. And they need to do that in a reasonable amount of time, because if I'm not winning on that turn, I at least want an opportunity to win on the next turn. So I will get to the point where I'm like, just to let you guys know, you've been doing it for a while. I'll give you 3 more minutes. At 3 more minutes, I'm going to call a judge. And then at that point, when the judge comes over, if you have to go to that point, which I have never had to, you can tell the judge like, hey, I'm calling you over. I have a spell on the stack. They talked about it for a pretty long time. At that point, I told them that they had 3 more minutes to figure out what they were doing. Not a single person has passed priority at this point. They've been taught politicking for a very long time. Can we call slow play? Like, can we get them to start making some actions? Like we need to progress the game. Like, if I'm losing here, I'm okay with that. I at least want another attempt. I want to set up the game so I can maybe get another turn, if I do get stopped here.
So this is something that I kind of realized as we were going over some stuff. And it might be a valid point for our listeners. Let's say you're in a tournament and there's 20 minutes on the clock.
Oh yeah, it's your turn.
Well, no, there's 2 players ahead of you. So the player before you just had your turn. It's the next player's turn, and there's 2 ahead of you. Do you think you get another turn, or are you thinking? I guess the question is, how much time do you think an average turn takes, and at what point do you think, do I not get another turn?
Minimum 10 minutes.
That's what
after
I was thinking
everybody
too.
is set up. And I also know people are just going to try to drag the clock out too. So if I look at the time and there's 30 minutes left, I'm about to end my turn, I'm just like,
It's over.
Yeah, it's over. Like, I mean, like later turns are so complicated because you can do so much stuff too. Like turn 1 and 2, like not really, but when you get to 3 and 4, like you can take multiple actions in a turn. You're only getting a turn with 20 minutes on the clock if you are like going against some like very upstanding players that are just like, yeah, I don't have anything, like I'm just gonna pass. Like most people will make a point to be like, well, I can't really win, but I can take a 15-minute turn where I really set myself up for value. And if I set myself up for value, even knowing I'm not getting another turn, like
Next person doesn't.
something could come out of it. And if nothing comes out of it, at least I get a tie because maybe the next person can't win. And like, I'm not going to say like, it's not a bad thing to do that. Like you need to take the best turn you can, but the people that are like, I've seen people like sit there with their cards and then put their like hand on their chin and scratch their chin and be like, and say for 30 seconds and then kind of side eye the clock and be like, oh damn, that was only 30 seconds. And then they'll like play their fetch land and they'll take, a really, really long time to find their taiga. They'll be like, oh, I missed it. And then they'll go back in a second time. And at that point, I would just say like, get a judge involved. Like, it's, if someone cracks a crack land and they don't want a shortcut, I get it. There's a lot of times where I will have like a tutor or something like that, or I'll Rocco for like a very odd amount, or I'll be like, I want to Rocco for 5. I know that I can go get Elish Norn off the top of my head for 5, but like,
What else?
what else can I go get?
Yeah.
And then at that point, if I have a sack land, I'm like, oh, cool. While I'm legally in my deck, I can purview my options. Like, should I be sitting there with my deck and like analyzing it for a really long time? Like, no. But at least like while I'm going through, I can be like, okay, Elish Norn, oh, Seedborn, which I don't run Seedborn, but like you could be thumbing through and you're like, oh, Seedborn, like that's a way better option. Then you put your land down and then you're like, all right, Rocco. And that, I mean, that also works with like black tutors where like whenever I play a black tutor, I'm usually like, well, if it's early, I guess Ristic is best. Like I'm not really sure what to get. And then I'll have my hand and then I'll like be going through with my sack land. And I'm like, oh, why would I go get Ristic? I could just go get Phyrexian Metamorph and I'll have a Kinnan. And if I have a Kinnan in a non green deck, like that's stupid. Like, it's like that's better than a Ristic study. Like I don't necessarily need new cards. I need to cast what's in my hand to win. So I mean, just little skill points like that. But yeah, I would definitely say like if you start your turn and you see that there's 25 minutes on the clock, like
It's probably your last.
yeah, it's probably your last turn. Yeah,
I would say if you end your turn and there's 40 minutes,
yeah,
you might get one.
Yeah,
And I don't say this for the listener to be like, it's your turn. Let's make moves. Let's make moves. Let's go. Let's go. Because that's not necessarily how you want to do it.
you need to politely speed up play.
I agree.
Yeah. So like if you're the type of person that the moment the person draws their card, you're like, we need to go. Like go, 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 go. Like I had somebody in a tournament that I drew my card and then or they were like, before you draw, I want to put 5 Thrasios triggers on the stack. And I was like, cool. And they were like, you can draw your card and keep playing. And I was like, no, I cannot. You need to resolve all of them. They're like, well, I want to get to my turn. I'm like, well, if you wanted to get to your turn, you shouldn't have put 5 Thrasios triggers on the stack. Like, let's go, man. Hurry up.
I'm a big advocate or a big. I do this a lot. And I'll be like, okay, so going into my draw,
Yeah.
point at this person, point at the next person, point at the next person. Nothing. I'm going to go ahead and draw.
Yeah.
And then I'll draw because then it kind of gives structure to. I mean, if you're playing in a tournament, you should have a general idea of each
Yeah.
step and phase. However,
This person in particular wanted to get all of his Thrasios
okay.
triggers, but also wanted me to play through my turn while they did them. And I was like, no.
It's not accurate.
And I also like, I kind of do that, but instead of like the slowness, I'm just like, cool, untap, upkeep, I'm good to draw. And then if no one says no, then I draw. And like, if I draw and I'm looking at my hand and somebody's like, did you draw? I'm like, I asked everybody and you didn't stop me. Like,
I agree.
If you want to call a judge over, you can, but I've had this card in my hand for quite a while. Yeah.
I've had
They're like, well, I want to do something. It's like, well, I have priority. It's my main phase. Like, yeah.
I've had that with Basalt where I'm like, I tap for 4, untap for 3.
Yeah, if it's a win attempt, I definitely take my time. Yeah.
And then once I get to 3, if they're like, oh, I'll remove it, it's like, okay, I'm going to put another activation on the stack because I've told everybody 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, I've went slow with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's that. The big thing to remember is if you're in a tournament, if it's casual, maybe, but if it's tournament play, like I pass priority on every untap and tap for 3. Like
the other thing that I'll see sometimes, which most people already know this is a no, but I'll have somebody be like, well, on your upkeep, I'll Vampiric Tutor. And then I'm like, cool. And they're like, I know what I'm getting. You can go ahead and draw and take your turn. And I'm just like, I'll draw so that I can start thinking about my turn, but I'm not going to play while you're in your library.
Yeah, nothing.
They're like, well, I know what I'm getting. And I was just like,
cool, I don't.
Yeah. It's like, if you know what you're getting, I should wait. I don't want to do anything that would influence you until you literally put the card down and put it on top. I'm not going to make any actions. And like, maybe if I have a sack land, I'd consider like playing it. But in a tournament, like I could play a sack land and then like go get a blue-black land. And then they're like, oh, well, maybe they're Thassa comboing. Instead of tutoring this, I'm going to do this. Or like a lot of the times they're like, well, I'm just tutoring it to the top of my deck, so it won't matter. And I'm just like, it matters to me, so I'm going to wait.
Yeah, especially in red decks because it could be a Ragavan. Not that it's super relevant, but it can be.
Well, the strength of the tutor is I'm going to go get any card I want with the knowledge I currently have.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If you start making more plays, like, let's say me especially, like, let's say I worldly tutor for some reason and I'm like, you can keep playing. I know what I'm getting. And then somebody drops like a Soul Ring Chrome Mox. I'll just be like, man,
Oof would be great.
Oof would be great. And like, I will say I try to be pretty upstanding because I want to do a lot of tournaments. So like I don't want people to be like, oh, this guy will cheat. Like, if you, that's not necessarily cheating, but you should not have that information. So you should not flex. But I try to be as upstanding as possible. Number one, like if I won in a situation where I probably shouldn't have won if I played the game right, like that feels like a really hollow win. If I do it, I've never done on purpose. I'm sure I've like misplayed and like gotten something I shouldn't have had where I was like, oh, hey, I accidentally played this Soul Ring off a Ragavan. I didn't realize that there was a a Dranith out, and we've done a full turn rotation. I've had it for 2 turns. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
But like also like, if you have to cheat to win, you're not going to win tournaments. And if you win a tournament because you cheated, not saying any of our listeners would, but I think everybody should have this mentality of like, if you win a tournament because you did something that wasn't like super above board, like you're going to win one tournament. And I've seen people that were like well-liked people in the community that
just get shot down.
They made a poor decision where they basically were like, I'm not going to win. And then they top decked a card, and then the urge to win was so strong that they were like, I know I said I didn't win, but I drew the win. I'm sorry. I'm just going to win. And then people for a year, I will say, like, I'd sit down and then someone that was at that tournament would be like, don't trust anything that he says politics wise. He told me he wasn't going to win. Then he drew a card that said he was going to win, and he just proceeded to win. And he broke a promise. And then they're like, yeah, I did. But when you top deck a card and you can win, are you just supposed to pass it up? And then everybody at the table's like, yeah, you should have.
I think the big thing with that is, don't be that person at the end of the day, because Magic is a social game.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many tournaments do we go to that we see the same people?
Yeah.
I mean,
and also if you're going to say that you're not going to win, number one, just don't say that. Like, I'll never promise to not win. I will tell people like, hey, with the cards in my hand, I cannot win. And if it gets to the point where it's like important, I will show them my hand and I'll be like, hey, if you're worried about it that much, here's my hand. I am not going to win with what's in my hand. And they'll be like, cool. And then I'll draw a card and I'm like, I drew a treasonous ogre. I can win now, sorry. And then they're like, well, you said you weren't going to win. And I said, with what's in my hand, I can't win. And I didn't say that and then just keep information to myself. Like, I showed you, that I top decked this treasonous ogre. So like, yeah, I'm going to push, I'm still keeping within what I said I was going to do. Sorry, but like when you're in a competitive environment, just, you're always trying to win. Like, don't say you're not going to win.
Now I've had that, kind of an opposite play to where,
I'm not going to win this turn. Final Fortune.
Well, I've done that, I think once, but initially what happened is one player was really set to win through combat damage, which is kind of funky. However, it was very clear, and me and the other player that's not about to win, I was like, hey, I can put a win on the stack and offer a draw. He's like, well, I can't stop you after this interaction. And I was like, look, man, can you win on your turn? He was like, no. I was like, I will put a win on a stack and offer a draw.
Yeah, I'll offer a prize split.
And which, even the guy that didn't have the best outcome in it, he was like, I understand.
Yeah.
But I would say just realize that you're going to play with these people probably again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you can slide. You shouldn't do it, but I mean, you could slide once and then you just don't get to play CDH anymore, which, I mean, or you show up and you lose for 6 months straight until people forget,
Yeah.
I would never put myself in that situation. Do you have? I think we're kind of getting to the end of our idea list. Did you have anything to add on
No,
when to win, when to push?
I think we've went over most things. I'm sure that there's something we're missing, but at this point, I can't think of anything at this moment that
Yeah,
is beneficial other than kind of going in circles.
yeah. And I'd also say, like, let's say like you have a super specific question where you're like, "Hey, you guys covered a lot of really good stuff. This was the specific situation that I was in, and I didn't know what to do, and I think I fumbled it." Leave it in the comments. I'm really good at replying to the comments. I'd say if anything that's been said is a comment, if you're going to take the time to leave a comment, I will take time to answer it. If it's something that's like a really long thing that you think like probably is best to put in Discord, that's also cool. We have a general channel for that stuff. I'd say a couple of our early listeners seem to be really hitting CDH pretty hard. I know I've heard at least one is really working on Dog Thrass and doing competitive leagues, and I think they're signing up for their first tournament soon. Well, no, by the time they hear this, they would have already done it. But
it's so cool to hear it.
Yeah,
though.
it does seem like the community is not only growing, but we're really kind of training you guys up for your own tournaments, giving you confidence to enter, and hopefully doing well. So I'd say if you join the Discord, I'll probably get to it pretty quickly. There are some times where I travel for 3 days and I'm not really gonna get there, but I would say between me and Ghost, we're normally available, and then if we're not available, there's a lot of really good information in the Discord. So
it's definitely pretty active.
Yeah, we're almost. I made a roll for first 50, and I think we only have like maybe a handful of spots left. Maybe by the time this airs, none. And I've already made a top 100. But it's becoming a pretty good tournament grinder Discord. So if you want to join, specific questions, I mean, clearly better for you to leave them as comments on on YouTube or podcast, because it does get us to more people. If you want to leave a comment and then also join the Discord, pretty good.
Yep.
And if there's anything that you specifically do that you're just like, I've done this, it seems to work for me, I'd like to share, that's awesome. I mean, we're still learning. We've only been playing for seriously probably about 2 years. So, we still have stuff to learn. So share it up.
Oh yeah. It's always a learning experience.
Yep. I think that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys a bunch. If you made it this far, please check out our link tree. If you have made it this far on YouTube, please make sure you like and comment. Just make sure you're subscribed. Double check you're subscribed. Happens quite a bit where people will be like, I listen to all your episodes. And I'm like, are you subscribed? And then they'll check and they're like, nope, it happened to Ghost.
Yep.
So yeah, I would just double check that. And please rate us 5 stars or best stars on your podcast of choice. And if you can, like Spotify, leave a comment. All right, that'll be it. The music will play us out. So we'll see you later.
Bye.